Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the country, in the world, or whether you're watching this on replay or not. A couple of people saying, "Oh, it starts in an hour." No, I think sometimes we get our time zones a little bit confused because there was a clock change to back to standard time instead of daylight savings time, or British summer time, depending on where you are. You say you're responding to Paul. Okay, I get it. Yeah. Paul Jackson. Hi, Paul. So let's just give people a couple of moments. Francois. Hello, Francois. Talking to him on the email just recently. And he's from Belgium. Very, very good developer. Has a project called ICS, which if you haven't come across it before, you really should look at it. Absolutely fantastic project. And he works very, very hard on it, and he's got lots of things planned coming up. I shan't give away the details, but all good stuff. Say hello to a few other people. Peter Turtle. Pete, I meant to say hello to you last time because I know you were there last time. I used to work with Peter back in the day, and we're kind of a bit older now and a bit more cranky and stuff like that. But Peter and I are ex-colleagues. We used to work at a different software house, slightly crazy software house, and everybody were runners and things like that. And I don't run unless I'm being chased by a tiger. Peter will understand what I'm talking about. We had some interesting times, including some terrorist attacks that we went through and a few other things as well. Happy days. But hello, Pete. Good to see you turning up from, forget where you're living now, some mad place like Italy or something like that. And Knut, hello, Knut from Norway as ever. Thank you for joining. And also Stephen Bullas from the Ether. Yes, I would come from there as well. Doug from Victoria, British Columbia in Canada. And Satya from Chicago. Same time zone as me. There you go. Up and down the country. So I live in Dallas, so I'm in the same time zone as Chicago. Gaza, not the Gaza, I'm sure. He's not. I don't even know if he's alive now anymore. Sorry, I've lost track of him. But Gaza, back in the day, yeah, he was a hero. Chilly and snowy Leeds in the United Kingdom. Yes, I know it's snowing over in my old home country. Not much danger of it here in Dallas. It's cold, but it's still 70 something, so 26 degrees centigrade or something like that. Claudia, ciao from Italy. Hello, Claudia. And howdy from Toronto, from Terry. I am going to guess it says hello, everybody from Ukraine. Hopefully it's not offensive. I apologize to anybody if I have just put up an offensive message, but from the Ukraine. Invomis is from Holland. Livius is from Poland. Dzień dobry from Poland. Hudson Valley in New York. I was there a little while ago with my wife. We absolutely love New York. Bit chilly this time of year. I remember going to New York, and I lived in Nebraska for 5 years, and I thought I was used to the cold weather, and then the wind blew down the Hudson into my bones and out the other side. My word, that place is freezing cold. And talking of cold places, Gdansk in Poland. Dzień dobry to Mark in Gdansk as well. That's all I can say in Polish, by the way. Dzień dobry and Stolat, which if you're Polish, that will make sense. And if you're not Polish, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But it involves vodka and singing. That's all you really need to know. Okay, well, thanks to everybody for joining. We've got quite a lot of people sign up for the webinars, and then what usually happens is we have a few hundred join us live, which is great, and some people join halfway through and things like that, and then we get a couple of thousand on the replays. If you are watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, click on the subscribe button and click on the like button. Hopefully that's what you like what we're doing. And there's a little bell icon down that side on YouTube. If you click on that bell icon, it will notify you and tell you when I go live, just in case our time zones are a little bit out. We won't know who you are. We have absolutely no idea. We can't spam you with sales messages or anything like that. We'd like to get in touch with you. So if you do register via the normal registration page that we have on our main site, then we will actually make sure that you get notified of all the special offers and things like that as well, because we're always doing some offers. But if not, if you just like and subscribe on LinkedIn or Instagram Live, Meta Live, YouTube, we're on 3 channels and all sorts of other things as well. I think Twitch as well. You know, you'll get notified and we won't know who you are, but at least you get to hear what we've got to talk about and see the things we're talking about. So hello to Malik in Tripoli, Lupmir, hello from Czechoslovakia, I think that is. Hello from Chile. Wow, another one from Canada and Luxembourg. Stefan, I think you're the first person we've had from Luxembourg so far. I don't remember coming up with anybody from Luxembourg before, but you know, everybody's everywhere. We literally do. We are in almost every country in the world, and we get people joining the webinars from absolutely everywhere. And I really appreciate everybody who joins along and says hi and all the rest of it. I'm from Argentina. Okay, I'm going to stop saying hi to everybody now. Otherwise, okay, one last from Macedonia. Yasu in Greece. I can't speak Macedonian, but I can speak Greek to a certain degree. Sakis. Yasu, I hope you are doing well, and hello from Norway as well. I can't speak a word of Norwegian. It's an interesting language. I love the country, but yeah, tricky stuff. Right, what are we going to talk about today? Well, today we are talking about web technologies in general, but specifically about WebStencils. Now, WebStencils came out with version 12.1, I think. See, now I'm doubting myself. I think it was 12.1 of RAD Studio. But anyway, my slides explain when it's available. And it's very, very, very interesting technology. I absolutely love it. Hello from Amazon and Bom Dia, or Bom Dia, I think it is. And have we ever had anybody from Antarctica? They would type, but their fingers are too frozen, I imagine. But yes, I know someone that we have from Greenland, and I'm not even going to try and attempt to say hello in Greenlandic because my word, that's a tricky language. You've got to do lots of that with your teeth. And Berlin, well, I think we can manage German. So the WebStencils technology, I personally, there's lots of things I like in 12, you know, like the split editor and a few other things as well. But, you know, with 12.0 and Skier being incorporated was great. But I really, really like the WebStencils. There are other stencils templates out there, templating languages out there. And this is our version. The great thing about RAD Studio is you can pick and choose. So if there's a different way of doing things that you want to do, then you've got choices. But today I'm going to talk about WebStencils. I am going to briefly cover the other types of technology as well. But for now, we're just going to talk about that. So a couple of clicks, because I'm going to start my slides running, which means I have to do a little bit of a button clicking exercise here. Just 1 second. And share this screen and hide my camera because nobody needs to have me up on the screen. Just 1 second. I have a navigation screen. There you go. Right. So I can't see questions for now. If you've got any questions, put them in the question window, and we'll talk about the questions at the end. It's not a very long presentation. I'm going to cover the basics of what the whole thing's about, and then show you a demonstration, a live demonstration of what this does. And then we can talk about some alternatives as well, because I want to make sure that we cover everything we can. Today's webinar is from me. I'm Ian Barker, the Embarcadero Developer Advocate. You can email me, please do, at ian.barker@embarcadero.com. You can go to read my various web pages and go to the various websites by going to about.me/Ian Barker. The replays for today's slides, so the slides, the replay for this video, and links to the demo repository, which I'm going to be showing a live demo, are going to be there. So tinyurl.com/winter24web. If you go there right now, you'll get a 402 message saying you can't find that page because I haven't made it live yet. It's a placeholder. But if you're watching the replay, this will be live probably later on today, my time. So if you're watching the replay in a couple of hours' time, it should be up and running. And what's today's webinar? Well, how to use WebStencils to easily create modern professional superfast websites. I say easily. There is a little bit of effort involved, because you do have to do a little bit of coding to get a few things working. But once you get the hang of it, once you've got the basic framework going, and you can do that easily with the demo, take the demo and then butter it up and cut it up, you can then create some really good websites with it. They're very, very efficient, and they use regular web technology. Later on in our webinar series, we're going to do some live demos of some, not copies, but emulations of some of the popular products like Instagram, Facebook, a banking app, and a few others as well. We're not copying them. We're just showing you how you can create that kind of social networking type app. And we're going to use, for the back end, some of the WebStencils technology to do that, to show what it can do, and also because it's the easiest way of doing it. We're also going to be having Richard Hatherall from Appercept with us. He's going to show us some of the AWS and the Amazon stuff that we can do as well. So this won't be the last time you hear about WebStencils. You're going to see a lot more of it in another couple of webinars time. So let's just talk about web technology that you can get with Delphi and C++ Builder. Actually, it's quite a lot, weirdly enough. For the client/browser side, the big ones, I suppose, or the most popular ones, are TMS Web Core, which is basically what it does is you write Delphi code and you design your forms and your screens just like a regular Delphi app. Using their components. They've got some framework, neutral components, and some web core components. But you design your apps and write your apps just like it's a regular Delphi program. When you hit compile, instead of compiling and creating an exe like you would with Windows, or creating a Java jar file, or a IPA file for iOS. Instead, what you actually create are a bunch of HTML and CSS files, because it transpiles the Delphi code into JavaScript. And in fact, they're about to do some stuff with TypeScript as well, which is interesting. I've used it myself. You can literally write Delphi code and produce a website from it, and design your screens and outcomes, a website that looks like you would expect, a website to look. It's kind of like taking a Delphi desktop app and creating one that suddenly works in a browser. Interesting stuff. IntraWeb is the same. IntraWeb is the granddaddy of all of this. It's been around a very, very long time. I like it. I'm a big fan of it. It does a similar thing to WebCore, except it's all self-contained. So with IntraWeb, what you basically do is create an executable that basically is the web server, and the web pages are all served up from that application. You can create it as an ISAPI module, so it could be sitting in Apache or something like that. but you can do standalone web browsers as well. Very, very good interweb, different from web core, different idea, but still the same principles. You know, you're doing it so that the browser is the be all and end all of everything. And then in interweb's case, there is actually a back end server technology as well. With web core, you tend to be talking to something like an Xdata module or something like that. You do need an Apache web server or Nginx web server or something like that. Unigui takes that one step further. It's a very, very similar thing. It uses an OEM version of Sencha.js, which is a JavaScript client-side thing. And again, you drop on components and off you go. You end up with a web app. Very interesting products. All of these deserve their own webinars. If you Google for any of those, they'll come up. You'll see lots of webinars on it. I'm not going to talk about them today other than to say that they exist. Server side, we're even more spoiled. RAD server is an Embarcadero product. It allows you to serve up web pages and data. It's a general purpose REST server and lots of other things as well. Very, very powerful. A kind of application / data server, really, and interesting stuff. Web Broker is the traditional way of creating web pages with Delphi, and in fact, we're going to see Web Broker today because the demo I've got is using Web Broker. Indy is a collection of components that allow you to do things like create HTTP clients, create chat clients, all the basic nuts and bolts of internet connectivity. Indy is the one. It's very well respected in the industry. If you've done anything to do with the internet at all, you've probably used Indy and maybe not even known it, because lots of other packages use Indy in the background to achieve what they want to achieve. Great stuff. Got a lot of good things to say for it. Lots of work going on behind the scenes about Indy at the moment. They're updating a few things to do with the SSL. You'll see that work on the project is open source, and you can go along and have a look. Horse is a project based out of Brazil, and I noticed we had someone from Brazil on the chat there. Horse allows you to basically stand up very bare bones web servers and web technology type pages very, very easily. You literally go horse and off it goes. Up comes this project. There's a webinar about that, and we're going to do another one just to show what it does. Very, very, very popular in Brazil. You see a lot of the Brazilians talking about it. Delphi MVC framework, also extremely well respected. It's difficult to explain. It's kind of like a back-end technology that then creates front-end data. There's a webinar and lots of pages about it. The same with Mormot, which is a different idea. Mormot is an object relational model. So you create classes and things like that, and then Mormot surfaces those. I'm really doing a terrible job butchering the explanation for those. Go and watch the webinars about them. Go and watch some videos about them. They'll explain it. It's one of these things where it's difficult to explain until the penny drops, and then once you get it, you go, oh, okay, I understand. That's really cool. Both of those definitely cool. Mormot at the moment, we are looking to get into Get It. There's a couple of issues to that because it has some encryption technology. As a US-based company, we get the US government saying what we can and can't distribute because they get a bit worried that encryption is going to be used for nefarious purposes. And so there's a licensing restriction. Most of the time, we can distribute stuff as long as our legal people have given the thumbs up. We would love to have Mormot on Get It so that people can download it, and we're looking to make that happen, and so the Mormot team as well. So we're talking about that at the moment. Finally, server side, kind of similar to WebStencils, is Semper. This is by Conrad Vermeulen, very great developer based in the UK, South African, but now I would say he's as much British as anything else, been there a long time. Very nice guy, good friend of mine. I love him to bits. He does some very good, long, detailed explanations of how Semper works. What it does is a templating language. his tooling behind that, you know, like test frameworks and stuff like that, is an absolute work of art. Really, really good. Conrad is just one of these people that's a real craftsman at what he does, and I've got a lot of respect for him. And WebStencils is kind of stamped a little bit on Semper because it's in the same kind of field, but Semper aims to do one thing differently, and WebStencils aims to do something in a different way as well. And there's other templating languages out there, but Semper and WebStencils are the ones that I'm mentioning right now. What is WebStencils? Well, it's a templating library. What do we mean by that? Well, you create web pages and you put some little special keywords in it. And then behind the scenes, there is a Delphi server app or a server-side application powered by Rad Studio, and it interprets those special tokens. And you can see that on the right of the screen there where it says @if, and it will process that, and out comes, instead of that web page, out comes the final results of the web page. It's very, very powerful. You can put any JavaScript library in there, and in fact, the demo will show you that being used. It can have all the CSS and all the web technology. Basically, all the things that a web developer is familiar with, you give them the web page and tell them, put in these keywords where you need this bit to appear. For example, some employee pictures or something. And they'll go, oh, yeah, I get it. They can use anything they like to edit those web pages, their favorite editor, hopefully Ultra Edit, but it could be, you know, Visual Studio Code or Notepad++ or just simple Notepad, or I don't know, whatever the web developers want to use. They create the web pages as normal. You tell them what keywords to put in there. They put the keywords in, and out comes a dynamic web page. How good is that dynamic web page? Well, it can support HTMX, for example, which is a really great web development solution. HTMX gets rid of a lot of the JavaScript functionality. You know, if you've got a button to do a checkbox, then you usually have to have some JavaScript behind it to say, on click, go and do this, and then lots of JavaScript to make that functionality happen. With HTMX, that's all very transparent, and it's very, very simple. You just put a class annotation there, property, against the HTML entity, and HTMX library takes care of everything else. Very, very useful. We're going to show a demo of that in a moment. I'm going to show you how that works, but they can use HTMX. But having said that, with WebStencils, because it's just plain HTML, you can do anything you like. It can literally be a regular web page that you give to any bog standard you know, web developer and say, here you go, create me a beautiful looking web page. I'm going to deal with the back end technology part of it. And that's all you do. You write your Delphi stuff or your C++ builder code, and let the web guy take, or web girl take care of the web pages. You can do it all yourself if you want. And you can even ask, you know, ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, create me a web page that looks beautiful and does the following, and then put the keywords in where you want the values to appear. What can those pages look like? Well, actually pretty beautiful. This is a demo from Dr. Holger Flick, a buddy of mine, MVP and super consultant, super busy at the moment. He does a lot of web design, does a lot of Next.js amongst other things as well. But WebStencils is a server-side script-based integration and processing of the HTML. So it's a template engine, which means you create a web page that is not fully finished. It's a template. It's got some bits in it that the templating engine fills out. So what can that template do? It's not just a placeholder that gets replaced like a string where you have, you know, %s and then it replaces the %s with the parameter of a string. No, it's actually more powerful than that. So it can do things like loops. And if you see on the right there, there's a div class, which is just regular HTML, a div element And then the class is gallery, which is CSS. So the CSS is just deciding how that gallery looks. It's got rounded corners. It's got a shadow behind it. It's in a rectangle of a certain size, and there's a certain amount of padding around it. All of this regular HTML stuff that you give to your HTML person who's, is the expert at it. We then have another div which says item, and in there is a loop where we just put the image. The data URL is the image that we're pulling down from our database. Could be anything else. You've got full control over what's happening. But as you can see, it loops through that database for each person or each item in a class or a collection called people. It will produce one of those images, one of those girls that you see there in the images. It will produce one of them for each record in the loop. This may sound a bit weird at the moment. Trust me, when I show you the demo, all will become clear. It's got some core web scripting syntax. So it uses the @ symbol that you put in your HTML for special processing of symbols. And then you use the curly braces, everybody's favorite curly braces, to define blocks as well. So you can have conditionals, and you can say, if my object, which is a variable in your program, that is got a property or a function, should we say, a method that returns a value of true or false. If the value is below 10, and as you can see in the top there where it says processor generic add var object to, we've created one called mark, and mark's value is 9. Then we can say if the value is less than 10, you put the word, the value underneath it, which says X has a value of X, which is under 10. And there you can see it out down there. That's what it translates to. Mark has a value of 9, which is below 10. So you can do conditional statements. This looks a bit tricky right now. In the demo, it will become clear. What else can you do? Well, you can say, I want to access a database that's in my application, in my server side. So for every record in my database, I want you to output a block of HTML code. And it will be a variable that we set up called loop. Could be I, that kind of var I. Loop.company, loop.city, loop.state. So these are properties of my data set, and I'm getting them sent out to me in my template. So I set my template up. I say, okay, here's a description of what my data set contains. Here are the fields. It's got a company field, it's got a country field, it's got a city field, it's got a state field. Now make me a web page that has got a template set up that will show those in the appropriate place. And as you see, if you follow the arrow up, you can see here I've got a thing called companies. And then for each record in that data set, up comes the name of the company, which is Kauai Dive Shopping. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it. The country is Kapakuai, and the state is HI, which is Hawaii, and the country code, which is over on the right, is the US. UNESCO, Freeport in the Bahamas, Site Diver, Akatopafos in Cyprus. Make sense? If not, we'll get there. You can do all sorts of complicated things, but it looks difficult. But trust me, once you start doing it, it's very easy, really easy. The web broker is what we're using for this demo. The web broker actions, you basically connect an action to a WebStencils processor. And then in the action handler, you connect the processor script variables, run the processor, and off goes the resulting HTML. In the script, you use the variables. So the script being the HTML, you use the variables to generate the HTML, and back comes the results from web broker. All of this is very difficult to explain, but actually once you start doing it, it's very easy. Trust me, hang in there. What kind of keywords? Well, luckily we've got a demo that tells you all the keywords and how they work and what you can do with them. But there are a lot. You can have comments, you can have conditional statements, you can have if not. So if something is not, if the cart is not empty, or if the person is not female, or if the cat is alive, then you can say Schrodinger lied or something like that. It's much more that you can do with things like JavaScript, because all you do is set this template and the template's fixed. You output that as a file, store it somewhere where you tell the processor where it is, and off it goes and it works. There are things like query access, the HTTP parameters. So if someone goes to your web page and you know the kind of thing where it says question mark order number equals, and then they have the order number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can actually access that in the using the ACK query and component. You can put comments in, you can put the conditional statements, you can process for each, so something in an object list for each object that you found. You can import templates, so templates and have templates. You can have some scaffolding code, which is difficult to explain, but once you see how it works, again, it's fairly straightforward. And what else can you do? Well, another thing that it does is, because it's HTML, it is also responsive. So you can see there on the smaller image, I've got a wider browser page. And so my template is nicely sized out with the image to the left and the text underneath it. But on the left-hand image, the browser has been made smaller and the browser page is zoomed up. And so because it's HTML, it responds to that and lays it out a little bit more prettily with a bigger image, which is cool. And then the name of the movie underneath, and then the description of the movie. Again, this is an example from Dr. Holger Flick, who is the smart guy when it comes to HTML stuff at the moment. And it's beautiful. It looks absolutely fantastic. You can have layout pages. You can say where the body is going to be rendered. You can inject extra header code. So, for example, let's say you've got some kind of information you want to output in a header. Like you might say some token or some other value that you output in the header, and your web app that you've written is going to process the header information that comes back. You can actually output that from the web template processor. Rendering header, where to put the extra header, so you can say, oh, I don't want it right near the top, I want it somewhere else. What does the structure look like? Well, it looks like this. So there's a tasks demo app that I'm going to show you in a moment, which uses HTMX, but it could be just a simple web page. The body of the web page at the top there, as you can see, is pretty straightforward. It's using a theme that has come back as dark, but you could make that a variable and decide on the fly whether it should be dark or not. It imports the navigation bar at the top, so you don't have to keep writing that code again. If you understand what I mean by dry code, DRY, one of the principles there is a thing called don't repeat yourself. And so why would you keep putting code in for the nav bar? It's a very inefficient way of doing it. Instead, you can have it in a little block and then import that ready-made block in a kind of object-oriented way for web development. It's very useful. You then render the body and then import the footer. Again, it's a ready-made footer, and then maybe you have a script for this particular page. So, it makes the body of that page straightforward. In the actual block itself, where we're importing the or rendering the body, there's the body code. So it's a list. It's got a class for an input button, a checkbox actually, and then the task ID. This is all pulled from your classes or your database, and off you go. I know it looks tricky because this is all new stuff, but believe me, once you start using it, it's really not that bad. What components do you use to make this happen? Well, there's a WebStencils processor, and that's the thing that processes an individual file, which is just a text file, a web layout file, and a standard web broker producer. So it outputs HTML to wherever you're telling it to go. I'm going to show you how that works in a moment. and then you can have an input file name, so you can read in, the name of the file that you're going to process, the template, etc., etc. WebStencils engine, that controls all of those. You can have multiple WebStencil processor components, and if you don't have one, it'll create one if you need it. It has some interfaces, so an iWeb dispatch, a root directory, default file extension, all the things you could possibly think of. And what does it do? Well, it does this kind of very powerful dynamic content which gets displayed within standard HTML pages. And this is a key feature. You can generally work with someone who's a web developer, which is one of the biggest things that people come across as Delphi developers now. There's a lot of pressure to produce web pages, and they say, we could just get someone to design the web page. Can't you do the back end? Well, yes, now you can. Using the WebStencils library, you can definitely do that. That's how easy it is. Uses all the features of HTML and CSS. I spelled CSS wrong. But CSS, so that any web designer can understand it and use it. Any web designer. The only difference is they need to know that they're going to put the name. So as you can see there, I'm looping through all the people in my database, which actually happens to be a collection, a T collection in this case. I show the image, which is a link to an image on the website, the data URL. So it's https:/norahale.picture or whatever you want to call it, .jpeg, and then put her name underneath. So whatever that person's name is ejected into that little box. And again, by using just beautiful looking CSS, regular web design stuff, out comes this improved version of the pages I showed you earlier on. All standard stuff, and you can use all the things that you could ever want in web design. Grab a template from somewhere beautiful and use it straight out of the box. Go and edit that page, put in your little loops and properties, and you've got a dynamic web page based on something already existing, web technology that already exists. Also in 12.2 were some RAD server improvements to help with the WebStencils. So one of the first things is that RAD server supports the template engine, which is kind of useful because that means that you can spin up RAD server, and if you've got the right version of RAD Studio, you'll get RAD server included in there, and it will support the WebStencils in there. The other thing that RAD server does is supports now a thing called Swagger documentation. If you've ever used a REST server, you've probably come across Swagger documentation in the past. It's just a kind of a standardized way of explaining how an API works. It's got a few other things as well, like a document service interface, so that you can output those Swagger in a certain way, and does also things like supports YAML in addition to JSON and a few other bits and bobs as well. If you don't know what it is, then it doesn't matter. But all you need to know is with 12.2 as an improvement. And it's just really, what's the summary of WebStencils before I show you it? It's just another way to create a powerful, modern, gorgeous, dynamic web content. And we're not saying it's the be all and end all. There are other ways, as I said before. I listed them at the start: IntraWeb and all the others, Sempere and a few other technologies like UniGUI. We're not forcing you to use anything, but we just think that this particular technology is cool and does something very useful. And for me, I think it's one of the standout features of version 12, apart from Skier and a few other things as well. But for me, WebStencils is a game changer when it comes to web development, because it just makes everything so easy. So what I'm going to do is stop that bit, go back to the chat window. Oh my word, you've all been asking lots of questions, and let me just turn my camera back on for a moment, and so that we can go back to my main view, and let's just look at your questions. Okay, I'll just say hello to a couple of people because they're quite important to say hello to. Caesar, hello. Code for Delphi, our newest MVP is this guy here, Code for Delphi. Really very, very smart guy. And also, every time I've seen him, he's dressed impeccably. He looks more like he works for the government as a representation of the government or something. He's a very, very well turned out guy, but also extremely talented developer and does a lot of streaming as well. So hello, Cesar. Thank you for agreeing to be an MVP. Very, very happy. Nigel says he's going to briefly, he might have gone by now, but he's going to briefly watch and then he'll watch the replay. Yes, that's why we replay. Everything will be on the replay. And in a minute, I'm going to do a demo as well. And salut Einstein again from there. And hello, Stefano in the Dominican Republic. And woo, hello, Peru. And CE, what do I need to do to test RAD server? Rick, unfortunately, you'll probably need to download the trial version of RAD Studio because it will not work with CE. You can't test this. It will not work for the CE version. Sorry about that. Hello from Malaysia. Hello from my PC. Very good. and hello to Niles. Right. So I'm going to come back in a minute to some of these questions like this one. You say I can code Object Pascal on my project and that is transpiled into JavaScript. That's TMS Web Core. Go to tmssoftware.com and look up Web Core and they'll tell you all about it. That is how their stuff works, but we'll come back to that in a minute and talk about it. Rick says that's what he said. Yes, WebStencils nothing to do with it. No, you don't. You write normal code and out comes HTML. The transpiling into JavaScript, that's TMS Web Core, and a few others as well that do that. What is the transpiler technology? It is TMS Web Core. Did you say WebStencil needs version 12? Yes, you need version 12. 12.2 is preferred. You definitely need that. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Right, look, I'm going to show you a demo for now. So they've changed our studio software. And so hopefully this will work. If it doesn't work, I'm going to blame the studio technology. But if I go like this, hey, there you go. It shared it straight away. I like that. It's a single click. Okay, what I'm going to do is just make sure I'm looking at the right screen like that. I'm going to turn my camera off and we're going to do a demo. Right, so the demo that I'm about to show you, let me get my mouse onto the right place, is here, okay? So if you go to github.com/Embarcadero/WebStencils demos, the demo that I'm about to show you is there. You do need a recent version of RAD Studio to do this. It will not work in the CE version. Sorry about that, but that's the way it goes. Right, so let's just run it. So I'm going to start, before I explain it, I'm going to run the demo just so you can see what it does. What it's doing is running in the background, and then it will open on my machine somewhere. Here it is, a command window. Now, this is, I use the Windows terminal, so I've got a nice background. That's my dog looking like a little old lady as background. I don't know if it'll show up on the screen. But what the WebStencils demo app does is it opens up like this, and it's a beautiful demo. This is written by Antonio Zapata. He's one of our employees, a very, very smart guy. He's traveling at the moment. He may even be doing a demo about this, excuse me, as we speak. So it automatically starts. So I'm not going to need to say start, but if I wanted to, I could run it. If I go to my web browser and say, 1 second, web browser, and if I go to, what did it say? I forgot what it said. Yeah, localhost. Localhost 8080. here is the where the WebStencils demo. Now, if you download this, if you want to try it out and you haven't got the right version, download the trial of Rad Studio, and you can try this today to see if it is what you want. If you want to know where you can get the trial from, go to here, scan that QR code in the top left-hand corner, and it will take you to the Rad Studio page. Click on Try Rad Studio for free, and you can download the trial and have a play around with it. Like I say, you can get this demo. It's not a problem. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So let's look at the demo. Right. Well, let's start by looking at the examples, because I think these are the most interesting bits. First of all, let's look at the customers one. You ready for this? I want you to count on your fingers how quickly it goes. Ready? Boom. That is 1,000 customers, output to a web page, dynamically rendered, and also what's the word I'm looking for? A responsive design. It also supports this, so I can make it go dark mode, light mode automatically as well. Again, this is actually just a bit of standard JavaScript. And if I go into my browser, and my good news, my web ad blocker has been updated. Cool. But here's the source code. So what comes down from the WebStencils processor is fully rendered HTML. Okay. Just to make it clear, because when you look at the templates, it doesn't look like this. The template will have those commands in that I showed you earlier on. But what actually gets produced by the demo is this fully rendered web technology. So you can do all the secret things in the background, like checking they've got a license, or doing whatever it is you want to do, you know, looking up whether they're an existing customer, decide whether they're over a certain age to see some content. You can do all of that. And then what you send down, what you render down, they cannot get to, for example, your database. If you've got a database in the background, say a MySQL database, or just some data on a SQLite or something like that, the problem with front-end technologies like TMS Web Core is you've got to be very, very careful that someone doesn't go into your code like this, look at your JavaScript, and decode all of the bits of database reading technology and hack you. And that's not going to happen with this. So let's go back to my page. Oh, my poor cursor. This is the problem of having multiple screens. Pull that up again. So that was that. 1,000 record, ding, instantly. Let's look at another one. Well, this is HTML tasks. This is using HTMX, which is an interesting library. If you want to see more about HTMX, if you go to htmx.org, I think it is. Yep. This will tell you all about what HTMX is. Very, very interesting technology. It basically gets rid of a lot of the stuff you have to add for JavaScript. If you're a web developer, I definitely recommend it. But you just use one tiny little script, and then the rest of your stuff is things like this: HTMX swap and HX post. But that's what HTMX does. Now, let's see what HTMX can do. Now, remember, this is a web page, and it's connecting in the back end to some Delphi classes. And actually, I think this is a memory data set. But if I want to say, oh, I've completed this task, click on that. You can see that instant update. Notice that the web page is not flashing. What's happening here is there's no round trip to do this. You are not re-rendering the whole web page, which is one of the problems you'll have with certain types of JavaScript and XHTTP requests and all those kind of things. HTMX doesn't let that happen. It does all of this within the browser with the minimum amount of information replaced directly there. So if I want to go in here and I want to change this and say, refactor that spaghetti code. Let's say I want to say the spaghetti code and click on tick. Instant update in my database, done behind the scenes. Now you could imagine this could be a job ticket. It could be a task tracking program. It could be invoices. It could be a to-do list. Doesn't really matter. All of these are straightforward examples. Now I believe if I click on the right part of the screen, if I go back to here and then I go back in again, back to tasks, see how it's remembered? Because what it's done is it's actually saved that information in the database. Okay. And it's persisted it. That's how quick it is. Really fantastic demo. Antonio Zapata, like I say, did this before. If you want to learn about WebStencils, you can go to the documents from this example. The basics explain all the kind of things like how it works. So in your web page, you will add something. So whatever your object is, let's say you've got a thing called my cat as an object, as a variable, and my cat has got a name and an email address, because why not? All cats should have an email address. Then mycat.name would print out the cat's name, and mycat.email would print out the email address of the cat. That's all that people need to do in the HTML. Those are the basics. What the kind of keywords? Well, again, the demo tells you all of those. So you can do all of these things. Comments, if you want to comment your code. Conditional statements. So if my variable.sum property, Boolean property, is true, then do that, but otherwise do this bit. If not, for each at query. So you look at the URL here, the at query will retrieve any parameters that you put on there. As I said before, it could be an ID or something like that. Page, so on and so forth. What components? Well, the components, there are two that are the main ones. The WebStencils engine, which is one of them, and the other one is the WebStencils processor. You can add data, your own variables. You literally say add var. You can also use anonymous methods and get a product there. So it returns a whole list, a whole class of products. And you can also use attributes. So you can say, oh, I've got a data module, and then I'm going to annotate it with this, they call it class decoration here, but annotate it with this. And then what happens is the RTTI, which is runtime type information, for those that don't know, will allow you to actually go for customers and look up certain values. I'm not going to go into all of that because we'll be there for a month of Sundays, but this is the basic structure of the templates and how to import things and how to reuse them. Really, really love this as a technology. Now, let me just go back to my command line, which I showed you earlier on. Now, if I want to, if I say stop, you can see that it says stop, and the server stopped. Now, if I hit F5, after a little while, it's going to come back and say I can't reach it, because I just wanted to prove to you that is a genuine web server in there. If I say start again, I think this will work, and now the page will render properly. And you notice it's remembered where we were, and you notice that the spaghetti code has been persisted between sessions to show that I am actually writing something behind the scenes. Okay, so I'm going to close that, and I'm going to exit the server so that I can show you what's happening. And what you can't see on my screen is a breakpoint there, because it's just telling me that something happened. And I think I just broke something in the background, but never mind. So this is the demo. When you download it from GitHub, and I showed you that earlier on, I'll show you that URL in a moment, you'll get all of this. It's got a README that explains the various bits and bobs. There is a module ready to go, and if you want to see what that looks like, there's your main web module. So it's a web module. The demo explains how to do it, and so does the documentation. If you click on the demo and click on the one that says see the docs, you'll get to the documents, and the GitHub repository has got the documents as well. Not a lot of code to it, really. Adding some routing, because you can do routing. Let's say, for example, you were trying to create a Facebook clone and you wanted to go to facebook.com/photos/photos of my cat, which might be some kind of weird gallery that you've got set up in Facebook. The routing here would handle that. So if I wanted to go directly, instead of going to the tasks that I showed you, where I change the word that spaghetti to the spaghetti, if I wanted to just add a task directly from a URL, so I might save that somewhere on, as a favorite or something. Or let's say it was a bug report, and I wanted to go directly to a bug report and say add a bug report. The routing will allow it to go directly to that piece of code and run that piece of code. How does that look? Well, behind the scenes, I've got a thing called a task controller, which controls this particular, the bit of code that I showed you for the task controller. Can I change the port this listens on? Yes, you can have it on any port you like, any port that's available. That was a question from Milan. He said, can I change the port this listens on? Yes, you can. You can have it changed to, 78549 or something like that. I don't know, whatever port you want to choose. I'm just checking what other questions we've got. Yes. So this is the task handler, just to show that the task handler can be set up so that it works. And you remember, we'll just go back to there. We add a route that says, if you go to a web page called task/add for this thing, it will run this piece of code here, this create task, so on and so forth. What other bits and bobs have we got? Well, we've got a couple of class helpers to help with that add the route thing. We've also got behind the scenes a model, a data module for the tasks. An object model for the tasks that contains the task structure as a class, because it's object orientated. So there's a task item object and there's a tasks object, and that's a nice little collection of tasks. Here's the task, and so on and so forth. A few other bits and bobs, code example, and so on. Now, Antonio's done a very good job of extracting out things like the text so that these can be localized. He's also put in the task controller information so that when you select task and then add or item or whatever, it returns the information correctly. Now, enough of my waffling. First of all, let's look at the what the data was for the customers. Do you remember when we ran this? We came up with that 1,000 records of customer information, and I'll just prove it is 1,000 records. I'll go to the very bottom. There's 1,000. This is where it's loading it from. Okay, so it's loading it. This is Ultra Edit. This is loading it from a JSON file. There's the structure of the JSON file. So it's got ID and company, first name, last name. These are the fields. Behind the scenes, if I can get to the right place, because my two screens, behind the scenes, there is a controller for the customers. Now, let me remember where it is. Oh, I should have remembered this, shouldn't I? Yep, I can't remember how it's done in this, and I need to look at it. But there's the properties anyway. Custom. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So what he's done is he's got an FD mem table called customers, and this is a FireDAC component. And then what he does is, I'm guessing that somewhere in the code somewhere, I didn't write this demo, so I really should have checked it a bit more before I did this demo. But I believe, yeah. So when the main web module spins up, you saw when we click on the run button and the web app launches, does a couple of things. First of all, it says where the root path is for those documents, and the root path looks like this. So there's the HTML folder, and here's the basic HTML that you get up. He sets the root folder to be there, so you're stuck, you're rooted in there, so people can't do some tricky JavaScript hacking or stuff to get back into the root of your machine or your server or wherever this is. He loads from the resources path, which he's previously set up to be here. He loads in the customer data that I showed you. So if I just go back to there's your customers.json, and he loads that in. So he loads that into a mem table, and then you see what you saw earlier on, which is the super fast rendering. And Milan says, can I run all of this as a Windows system server? Yes, you can. Does running as a service require some other tools such as NSSM? No, you can run it as a service. It will. It is serviceable. You can set up as a service. It's just a web broker, and there are a lot. That's actually the most common way that people actually set up web broker modules like that is as a service. So yes, you definitely can do it. And just to go back again and run that web page. When we run, if you remember, it opens that JSON in the background and loads up the memory data set. You could do it another time. It could do it on demand when you go to the web page, but Antonio's just set up the demo so it does it this way. If I then, I think if I do control and click, yeah, because I'm using the very cool Windows terminal. Remember the JSON data set that we were reading? Bing, that's what that code is. So I really like what's being done. I think the WebStencils got a lot of potential. You can change this part, which was the other question that I was asked. What port could this be? Could be any port you like. It just happens to be set up to be 8080 at the moment. But with Web Broker, it doesn't matter. You can choose the port that you want to go to. You can see here, set port to change the default port. It's got all sorts of capability to control the thing. But the actual stencils themselves, if we go back into here, and if I say, let's see, this is a web stencil. So if you remember the tasks where we went into the task like this, and we clicked on that. Remember this page? Yeah. Well, here's the HTML for it. Isn't that absolutely amazing? Peter Turtle says WebStencils, HTMX, and RAD server is a game changer for me. Pete, we're mates. I absolutely agree with you. I can genuinely say I think for me this is very exciting technology. What it's doing is giving us the best of all worlds. The pressure for many Delphi developers at the moment is that lots of IT departments are saying things like, well, we should really, use web pages, and we should do, surface our stuff as a web app, and we should do this and that. But meanwhile, they've got, and I'm not joking, I was speaking to someone earlier today, 9 million lines of code that are written in Delphi, and they said, well, there's a lot of pressure for us to port that to something else. Yeah, no, you're not going to port 9 million lines of Delphi code to something else that easily. I get it. I understand. And, sometimes we annoy people because there's a bug that's a real showstopper for them, whatever. But, this is the best of both worlds. This is allowing people to do proper HTML in the background with placeholders like this. So you remember customer.id, we loaded in the customers from the JSON, and it's just a memory data set. But it could be SQL database, it could be a SQL server. Loads it in, and it is fast. And I mean like blinding fast. Really, really good. Milan says, very tiny presentation. I'm just about to explore solutions in this area. ChatGPT speaks very highly of WebStencils, and I'm running a web server behind YARP, so that makes a great deal of sense. ChatGPT, it varies on what it says, but the good thing about ChatGPT is it knows a lot about HTML, and so you can actually you can get ready-made templates for most blogs and websites and things like that. There's a lot of templates out there. I like CodePen. If you've ever gone and look up the word CodePen, all one word, they have some really great JavaScript examples with some very snazzy effects. There's CSS Garden and a few other things as well. I like web stuff, but behind the scenes, Delphi is absolutely, kicking the butt of everything, because your Delphi apps run and they keep running. They're robust. They don't go wrong. You cannot hack this website because there's nothing to hack. They can, if you write your code badly, you can probably get it to give out some data it shouldn't. But all of this technology is nice because it's a nice separation between the data processing and all the other things like OAuth and all the rest of it behind the scenes. And then the web page, the web browser is doing what it should do with the minimal amount of stuff going down to that web page. So the actual web page itself behind the scenes is showing an absolute minimum of information that it should do. You see, this is generated automatically by WebBroker for you. But you remember the source code for that page is this. Now, a web developer is used to this kind of thing. How about authentication such as JWT says, I'm not going to, M3A buddy. Okay. Yes, you can do JWT and stuff like that. There are, because it's just pure HTML and a JavaScript, the authentication part, there's a number of different ways to do this. Coming up in the next few weeks, we've got some more webinars that we're going to do with some live coding, and what we're going to do with that is we're actually going to show some authentication using WebStencils, because I like the technology, and what I want to do is try and emulate some of the big sites out there to show that anything they can do in any other language we can do, and we can do it better, we can do it more securely, more robustly, and probably more quickly. If I can create an Instagram clone in an hour-long webinar, tell me who else can do that. Not many. I mean, you can probably do it with ChatGPT and create a bit of a duff version, but we're going to create something like that, a social media network. It's not going to be scalable. It's not going to be the real thing. Come on. They put millions into that, but it is going to be credible, because otherwise there's no point in me doing the demo, and WebStencils is one of the things that can do that. Milan, who I think I've probably sold the idea to him now, he says this seems to offer rapid development without sacrificing customization ability. You gain speed, but you don't lose the ability to solve problems. Exactly the point that we're making. I'm going to turn my screen back on again as well whilst we show that. Yeah. The reason I'm excited about WebStencils is there is some code to go behind the scenes, and I've tried to make sure that in most of the demos we don't too much code on the Tuesdays. On the Fridays we're going to go more in depth and do some slightly more expansive topics, but on the Tuesdays we're trying to just give you a flavor of what's going on. I'm going to interesting. Gaza said he moved back from C# to Delphi, and WebStencils look like the technology. I need to upgrade some old .asp websites. Absolutely. I totally think you're right. Look, my badge says Embarcadero, okay? And so you're going to expect me to be confident. What's the word I'm looking for? Positive about the products. If I don't like a feature, if I think it's no good, then I quite typically won't talk about it, because I don't want to be a shill, which is a slang word for someone who is just there spouting nonsense for the sake of being sales. Make no mistake, you know, we don't need to say this is a sponsored webinar, because it's clearly from us, okay? And whenever you see me wearing this shirt, I am representing the company. But despite that, I absolutely believe that WebStencils is a very exciting technology. I really loved Skier. I thought our incorporation of Skier in Red Studio 12 was a brilliant idea. I think it was an absolutely fantastic move. I'm not so keen on some of the AI stuff, I have to say, but we're working on improving it. But it's not my thing, you know, and that's my personal choice. Some people absolutely love it. Okay, fine. But the WebStencils, this is a great feature. I really mean that. I think it is going to do some interesting things. Can you please detail what you have behind the import in your demo? Actually, the easiest thing to do, Didier, is to download that demo. I'm going to put a link up here because, where is it? Let me see. Demo. Oh, really? I didn't put the web stencil. Okay, let me just get that. I can't believe I didn't include that. Just one second. Here we go. Right, so I'm going to add this. Sorry, I totally did not add this to my lower thirds, as they're called. But if I add this WebStencils demo, if you go there, this is where you can download it. The import section, I would need, I have to say, like I said, I didn't write this code. So I'd need to go through and wade through it, and it's not going to be very exciting because I'll be going fine and then find out where the import is. But the demo is open source, it's fully there. Just go to that link and you can do it. If you prefer using the QR code, bing, bing, there's the QR code that will take you there as well, because some people prefer to scan it and do it that way. Like I say, I'm excited about this. The company's excited about this. We think we've hit it right. It is an evolution of some things that Marco Cantu did many years ago. There are other templating engines out there. Semper, I think is very good. In fact, there's a QR code for Semper as well. He's an MVP, and he does deserve our backing. You might not like the way WebStencils does it. Go to Semper and see what they can do. He does some different things as well. But you know, Conrad is a smart guy. He's got all sorts of things on the go at the moment. He's telling me about another project he's working on recently. But if not, if you want to scan the QR code and go directly to, it'll go directly to here as well. If you haven't got a version of the product and you want to, you know, if you're using the CE version and you want to try WebStencils out, you will need to download a trial of the latest version. You get a 30-day trial. It is completely free, but scan that code and you'll go directly to our products page. If not, go to Embarcadero.com. That's the name, Embarcadero.com, and then look at the products. It's there, but great stuff. But let me see. I've got a lot of questions about this. Applause to presenter. Whatever team that is. Okay, so let me explain this jersey, okay? In fact, if I bring it over, I think I'll be a little bit more clear on what this jersey is. I put this like this. Okay, so I'm just going to hide your message. Okay, so this says Ian Barker and then 12.2. This jersey was given to me by one of our MVPs in Brazil. In fact, he's an employee as well, Landerson Gomez. And this apparently is his local team in Brazil. How cool is that? And he made me his own custom shirt. I don't normally, as a matter of course, I don't accept gifts. I just point that out to anybody because sometimes when I go to conferences, people go, "Oh, I bought you this," and generally I can't accept. I don't mind a cup, you know, a mug, or I've got quite a few mugs in the background there behind me. That's fine, but anything more than that, it actually makes it very difficult for me because I don't want people to feel like they're innocently bribing me, because they're not bribing me. I know they're just being nice and they're giving me a cup or whatever. I don't mind cups and mugs, that's fine. But anything else, I just can't do it because I want to be independent of what I'm saying about people's stuff. Landerson's different. Is a guy I work very closely with anyway, and he got me that because, you know, we did some things together, and he's a cool guy, and he wanted me to promote his local team. Does WebStencils require a RAD server? No, it doesn't. No, you can do it as in WebBroker and then create as a service. You don't need RAD server at all. No, WebStencils doesn't need. Is it usable with a professional license? I think you can use a professional license. I'm not sure, but it doesn't need RAD server. Okay, so I'll find out about that, and I'll try and put it in the blog post that will come up later. Ivan Souza, who I know, he's another Brazilian. He says it's a Fluminense football team. Okay, I knew Ivan. I knew it was one of them. I couldn't remember. Landerson immediately said, Landerson's a great guy. As I said in Brazil, Landerson is a hero of Delphi. I mean that. Landerson does incredible things in Brazil for the education market, and he is the one that has made sure that Brazil is so strong in development. He works really, really super hard as well. Great guy. Does WebStencils run directly on Linux server? Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I believe it does. I'm not sure, but I believe it does. I don't think there's anything there that require. I think it just uses whatever web broker uses. So I think it will run. I haven't checked, but download and try and see if you can compile it to Linux. I suppose I could see if that demos. Let me just have a look and see if the demo's got targets for. Yeah, it seems like it will run under Linux as well, because the project that I'm running has got a Linux target. So yeah, it looks like it will run under Linux. Yeah, someone else said about rugby. Yeah, it's not a rugby top. It's the Brazilian football team, Fluminense. That's it. Okay. Well, look. I mean, a lot of people saying it was great. Very nice. Look, I want to make it absolutely clear. Oops, sorry. I do the talking, and I show the stuff, and I do the slides and all the rest of it. And I've got some slides left over still. I think at the end of the demo. But I want to be absolutely clear about this. That demo was done by Antonio Zapata, who is one of our guys, does pre-sales, I think, and I forget what his exact title is, but basically he goes around and spreads the word. He does what I do to some extent, but around Europe. He recently was in Poland, he was in Portugal, he was in Germany. He works very, very hard. In between that, he wrote those demos you saw. He wrote the demos. All that task manager, HTMX stuff, and all the rest of it. Antonio did all of that. And I just want to call out his colleague, call him out. It's absolutely fantastic the work he's done to make that product go. And also the development team, because again, you know, I just get to talk about it. But everybody else does all the hard work, which is the way I like it. I like to not have to do anything. Okay, all right. I think we've covered that to death. It's just a little taste of you know, the WebStencils project. Is very exciting. It can really bridge the gap that we felt was missing for web technology. There are, like I say, TMS Webcore and Interweb and Unigo and all the others as well. There's more than one way of doing web apps. If people say, oh yeah, but Delphi can't do web. Yeah, rubbish, absolute rubbish, complete trash talk. It absolutely, you can do a lot of many things and have been able to do for decades. I have a program that's at least 20 years old and doing web-based stuff with Delphi. So anybody that says you can't just doesn't know what they're talking about. You get this all the time. A lot of people very opinionated about Delphi and, oh yeah, I do C#. Oh, I do Python. It's much easier, isn't it? Nonsense. Anything you can do, we can do better, and we can make it. Is session management included? Yes, it's built into the way that WebBroker works. Thank you. Okay, all right. Well, that's it. I'm here again on Friday. This Friday, we have got a pre-recorded interview with an Aussie who's a YouTube streamer and a developer. He does Free Pascal and all the rest of it, and but also mainly Delphi and Rad Studio. And it's a long interview. I think it's an hour and a half long, but we talk about all sorts of random things, including him being a parish administrator, I think he called himself, something like that. I'd never heard of it before. It's an Australian thing, I think, but very interesting. So that'll mostly be him talking and me answering questions in the background on the chat. Lots of love for the WebStencil stuff. We think it's great. We do a lot of presenting on this, a lot of webinars, and everybody is very happy with it as well. And WebStencils can run as a console application on Linux. Yes, exactly. So exactly what you showed me, you saw me do on Windows, it will work on Linux as well. I did check in the project, and he did say that it's and it's handy to put in a Docker container. Yes, exactly. You can containerize these apps. No licensing fees or anything required. You can create a free Linux Docker container and containerize your apps, and off you go. You've got a ready-made WebStencils project, super fast, does everything you want. Thank you, Terran, for joining us as well, and that's good. And then as Paul says, see you Friday then. Yeah, no way, mate. It's Australian on Friday, and I'll try not to do terrible Australian accents in the same way that my wife does terrible British accents. She's American. But thanks for joining us, and we will see you this Friday, and then we'll be back on Tuesday with some more exciting stuff as well. But if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching the replay, click on that like and subscribe and the little bell icon. Same with LinkedIn. Subscribe to us. We won't know who you are. We can't spam you, but at least you'll get told when I've gone live. So that's definitely worth doing. Yep. See you on Friday, mate. Have fun. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.